There's a bird sitting in your yard right now that truly knows exactly who you are. And it does not just recognize your shape, it knows you. It has carefully studied the shape of your face. It has memorized the exact way you walk each day. It has watched you more carefully than most people ever will. And tonight, when the sun finally drops below the trees and the very last bit of golden light disappears from your sky, that bird will do something truly remarkable. Something important that most people will never get to see. Something that modern science is only now beginning to understand. Something that might change how you see your yard. Because the birds that visit your yard are not just passing through on their way somewhere else. They have chosen your space for reasons you were never taught about. They arrive at the exact same time every morning. They always land on the same branch. They watch the same window. And they wait for the same person to step outside. That person is you. They are waiting for you every single morning. And they have been doing this far longer than you have ever stopped to realize on your own. Most people assume that birds are random creatures, that they simply land down wherever food happens to be, that they carry no memory of where they have been before. They assume a bird has no real memory of who it has seen or what it has experienced. But that is not even close to being true. Not close. The bird sitting at your feeder this morning is the same bird that was sitting right there last Tuesday, and the Tuesday before that one, and the one before that. It did not stumble onto your yard by accident. It came back on purpose each time because it remembers you. It remembers your face, your movements, and your daily routine. And here's the part that most people never think about. When the sky gets dark and you go inside and lock the door, that bird does not vanish. It does not disappear into nothing. And it does not stop existing just because you stopped watching. It goes somewhere specific, and what it does there is truly extraordinary. Tonight we are going to follow it. We are going to see what your bird does when nobody is watching, and we are going to understand exactly why it chose you. But first, you need to understand something important about how a bird sees you, because it does not see you the way you think it does at all. When you step outside in the morning holding your cup of coffee, the robin perched on the fence is not just casually glancing at you, it is scanning your body. Its eyes are processing your face at a speed that your own brain simply cannot match. It reads your height, your posture, and the exact rhythm of your stride, and it is storing every single piece of that information, not for just a few minutes, not for just a few hours, for months at a time, sometimes for years. Researchers once conducted a study with crows living in a university town. They wore a specific mask while capturing and carefully tagging each of the birds near their campus. 5 years later, the crows in that area were still attacking anyone who wore that mask. 5 years. They remembered the face of a threat for half a decade. But here's the part that nobody ever talks about. They do not only remember threats and danger, they also remember kindness. They remember the person who fills their feeder. They remember the woman who leaves fresh water outside during the hot summer months. They remember the child who tosses bread from the back porch every single afternoon without fail, and they pass that information along to others, not just to their flock, to their own children. A bird that has never met you can already know your face, because its parent described you through behavior, through the way it relaxes the moment you appear, through the way it stays calm instead of flying away from you each time. Your reputation already exists in the bird world outside your window, and it has been quietly building for much longer than you probably know. But what happens after dark? Most people assume that when birds go quiet at dusk and the singing stops, they simply fall asleep somewhere, that your yard empties out and nothing happens until morning. But the truth is far more interesting than that. The very moment the sun sets behind the trees, your yard transforms into something entirely new you have never been invited to see. The robin that watched you all day long does not just close its eyes and drift off. It flies to a specific branch, the same branch it used last night. It has a spot, a chosen place that is not random, not wherever it happens to land first. A deliberate location tested carefully for safety, wind cover, and temperature. Some birds roost alone in the dark. Others press together in tight clusters, sharing their body heat in a row so perfectly arranged it looks like it was planned. Because it was planned, they organize themselves with precision. The most vulnerable birds take the inside positions. The strongest birds take the exposed outer edges of the line instead. Chickadees will drop their own body temperature by nearly 15 degrees at night every night. They do this on purpose. They enter a controlled state called torpor, a deliberate shutdown. Their heart rate slows to almost nothing. Their breathing becomes nearly undetectable. They are not sleeping the way that you and I sleep. They are surviving deliberately, precisely, quietly. And while all of this is happening, something extraordinary is taking place inside their brains. Because birds dream, that is not a metaphor, it is a scientific fact. Researchers studying zebra finches discovered that the same neurons that fire when a bird sings during the day fire again at night in the same order and sequence. The bird is rehearsing its own song while it sleeps. It is practicing. It is replaying the entire day and preparing for tomorrow. In the dark and silence, alone, your robin is doing this right now, every single night, on a branch that you have probably walked past 100 times in your life without ever once stopping to look up. But not all birds are still at night. Owls begin their shift when your songbirds go quiet. And what owls do in the dark is nothing short of terrifying. An owl can hear a mouse moving underneath 6 inches of packed snow from over 70 feet away. Its face is shaped like a satellite dish to funnel sound inward. It does not need any light to hunt. It does not even need its sight. It navigates the darkness using a map built from memory and sound alone, and the small birds roosting in your yard know this well. They know when the owl arrives each night. They know its route. They have tracked it for generations. That is why certain birds choose certain branches to sleep on, not just for warmth or comfort, for pure survival. Your robin picked its spot to avoid the owl. It chose a branch with thick leaf cover above its head and open sightlines below its feet. It positioned itself facing a direction that gives it a 2-second head start. 2 seconds. That is the margin between life and death for a sleeping bird at night. And your robin calculated that exact margin before the sun even went down. Now think about that for just a moment. This is a creature that weighs less than a small handful of coins, and it is making life or death calculations every single evening. It is choosing where to sleep the way a general chooses a position on a battlefield with precision, with hard-earned experience, with stakes you cannot see from your window. And it does all of this silently, without any complaint, without any recognition, while a small war plays out in the branches right above you. But the night is not only about danger and survival. Something else happens after dark that scientists have only recently begun to document, and it changes everything we thought. Because at night, while your birds are quietly roosting on their chosen branches, their brains are doing something remarkable that looks just like remembering, sorting, filing, deciding what matters. During the day, a bird collects an enormous amount of raw information. Every face it sees, every sound it hears, every feeder it visits, every threat it encounters. That is a staggering amount of data for a brain that weighs less than a single small grape. And yet the bird does not forget any of it at all. Because at night, while it roosts alone in the dark, its brain begins a careful sorting process. Neuroscientists call this process memory consolidation. Birds do it with astonishing efficiency. The important memories get permanently stored somewhere safe. The irrelevant ones get quietly released, and the bird wakes up the next morning with a sharper understanding of its world. That includes you. Every night, your bird's brain is actively deciding whether to keep you in its long-term memory, whether you're safe enough, whether you're worth returning to. And every morning it comes back to your yard, tells you something important. It tells you that last night, on a branch you cannot see, you passed the test. Your face was sorted into the category that matters most to any wild bird out there. Not threat, not neutral. Trusted. That trust was earned over many weeks of observation. Mockingbirds can reliably distinguish between dozens of individual human faces, Not just broad categories like tall or short or old or young, specific individual faces. Yours is included in that list. They know the real difference between you and your next-door neighbor. They know the difference between you and the delivery driver, and they respond to each person differently. If you have ever noticed that a bird seems calm around you but nervous and flighty around somebody else, that is not a coincidence. That is pure recognition. The bird has built a file on you over time, updated every day, reviewed every night, and it is more detailed than you would ever expect from something that small. But it is not just visual memory that birds rely on. They remember sounds, your voice, the sound of your back door opening, the creak of the gate you use. There are cardinals that begin singing the moment they hear a specific person's footsteps on gravel. Not just any footsteps. That one person's footsteps, they know the rhythm. They know the weight of your particular step, the speed of your usual walk, the little pause you make when you stop for a moment to look at them. And at night, while you're fast asleep in your bed, the cardinal is replaying all of it, rehearsing its song, strengthening the neural pathways tied directly to your presence. You're being actively remembered in real time, not as a background figure, not as a blur, as a specific individual who matters deeply to another small living creature. Now, here's where the story gets even deeper than you expected. Birds do not just remember faces, they also remember intentions. They can read your body language instantly. Researchers discovered that birds can easily distinguish between a person just walking toward them in a casual, relaxed way and someone approaching them directly with clear purpose and intent. They read your body language the way you read facial expressions. Tense shoulders signal danger, relaxed hands signal safety. A direct stare means threat, a soft glance means friend. And they make these judgments in fractions of a second, faster than you can form a conscious thought. Then they act on it instantly, stay or fly. At night, this detection system does not shut off even in sleep, even in torpor. A bird's auditory system stays partially active. It is still listening, monitoring, processing every sound. If a new sound enters the environment, the bird can snap awake in under 1 second, fully alert, fully aware, ready to respond before you would even open your eyes. Your birds are never fully switched off. They are always partly on guard. Even in the deepest part of the night, some corner of their brain is still watching over everything. And that is why the bond between a person and the birds in their yard is deeper than most people will ever understand. It is not a casual thing. It is built on hundreds of small and careful observations, stored over many months, reviewed every night, and confirmed every morning when the bird comes back to you. So what does all of this actually mean for your life? Why should it matter that a small bird in your yard remembers your face and rehearses your presence while it sleeps? Because in a world where most people feel unseen, the birds in your yard see you every day. Without being asked, without being paid, without any obligation, they chose your yard. They chose your feeder. They chose your window. And they keep choosing you every morning. That is not just instinct. That is something like loyalty. In many cultures around the world, a bird that returns to the same yard again and again is considered a messenger, a sign that something is watching your life. In parts of West Africa, a bird that roosts near your home at night is believed to be standing guard over the people inside, not just physically guarding, spiritually watching. In certain Native American traditions, the bird that greets you each morning carries the energy of your ancestors with it. It comes back to you because you're not forgotten. And in parts of Eastern Europe, there's an old belief that the bird at your window has already seen your future and is preparing you for it. These are not empty superstitions. These are careful observations made by people who lived much closer to nature than most of us ever will. They watched what you're watching. A small creature returning faithfully to the same place, looking at the same person day after day. And they ask the same question you're asking now. Why? The answer is the same whether you approach it through science or through spirit. You're worth returning to. The bird already decided that about you a long time ago. And at night, While you lie in bed wondering whether anyone notices you exist, there is a bird on a branch near your window that has your face memorized. It knows your schedule. It knows your kindness, it knows the sound of your door, and it chose to stay near you, not for food, because it trusts you. There's a woman living in Ohio who lost her husband 3 years ago. She said that the morning after the funeral, a cardinal landed on her front porch railing. It stayed on that railing for 40 full minutes. It did not eat anything. It did not sing a single note. It just sat there, looking directly at her. She said it felt like being held without anyone actually touching her. Like someone was sitting right there with her quietly in the hardest moment of her entire life so far. That cardinal came back the next day, and the day after that, and it has come back every morning for 3 years. Same railing, same time, same quiet gaze. Scientists would say the bird imprinted on that location, that it associated her porch with food or safety or a reliable source of shelter from the elements nearby. But the woman does not experience it that way. She experiences it as real presence, as company, as the only living thing that shows up without being asked to. And that is the thing about birds that we keep getting wrong. We measure them by what they are doing. We should be measuring them by what they give. Consistency, attention, return. The three things most people spend their lives searching for from other human beings. A bird gives them freely and quietly, without speaking a single word. And at night, when the whole world goes quiet, and the darkness settles in, and you're alone with nothing but your thoughts, the bird is alone too, remembering you. It is not sentimental to say that. It is biological. The bird's brain is literally processing your face while it sleeps. You exist in its dreams, in its neurons, in its night. You have been woven into the operating system of a wild animal, not by force or by training, by the simple quiet act of being kind enough to be trusted. That is not small. In a world that asks you to prove your worth every day, there is a creature outside that decided you were worth it long ago, and it will be back again tomorrow morning, not because it has to come, because it remembers you, and because, in its own quiet way, it chose you specifically. So the next time you see a bird sitting in your yard, I want you to stop for a moment, not to identify the species, not to grab your phone. Stop and look at it. Look at it, because that bird has been looking at you for much longer than you know, with far more attention than you would expect. That bird is not decoration in your yard. It is not background noise outside your window. It is a living record of your daily life playing out each morning. It has watched your mornings for weeks and months on end. It has witnessed your routines. It has seen you happy. It has seen you tired, and it stayed anyway. It has seen you stand at the window and stare at nothing, and it did not leave, not once, not ever. It stayed there every time without fail. Not every person in your life can honestly say that about themselves. But the bird outside your window can. It proves it every morning by coming back for you again. Tonight, when the sun finally goes down, that bird will fly to its chosen spot in the branches. It will tuck itself tightly against the cold evening air outside. It will slow its heart to a whisper and quiet its small body down completely. And in the dark, in the silence, its brain will begin to replay the entire day. Your face will be somewhere in that replay. Your footsteps on the path, your voice through the window, the familiar sound of the door you opened early this morning. It will sort through everything it collected today and decide once again that you are safe, that you are familiar, that you are still someone worth remembering one more time. And when the first light hits the branch tomorrow morning, it will open its eyes and do the only thing it knows how to do, come back to you again. That is what loyalty looks like in the animal world. Not loud, not dramatic, not announced to anyone at all. Just a quiet return, a silent landing, a familiar gaze. If you have birds visiting your yard right now, you're already part of something that most people never think about. A real relationship that runs both ways. You give them food and water and a safe place to land, and they give you something back that no amount of money can buy. The experience of being remembered, of being chosen, of being watched over by a creature that has no reason to care about you, except that it does because you gave it a reason. If you have a feeder in your yard, keep filling it. The bird that visits every morning is not hungry. It is visiting someone it trusts. Do not underestimate that. If a bird sits on the same branch outside your window every day, do not shoo it away. It picked that spot because of you. It feels safest there. And if you have ever lost someone close and felt a bird linger a little too long near your door, do not dismiss what you felt. Something old is happening. The bird knows things about your yard that you have forgotten. It knows things about your mornings that you stopped paying attention to. It knows you better than you think. And tonight, when the stars come out and the branches settle and your house goes dark, there will be a small creature outside doing something extraordinary for you, remembering you in the dark, in the cold, on a branch so small you would never notice it. That is where your bird spends the night. The pet always knows.